we're going to cover how ATG helps with injury prevention, rehabilitation, and athleticism all at the same time. I think this is important because people tend to think of injury prevention and rehabilitation as separate than athletic performance. But with ATG, we try to merge them all as the same thing. So first, most injuries happen in the joints. So they happen in the ankles, the knees, the hips, shoulders, low back. And what we want to do is prevent those things from happening, or do as much as we can once an athlete gets hurt. So what's important to know is that tendons and ligaments have anabolic properties. So tendons and ligaments are just like muscles, where they can change, grow, and adapt. Now, we know muscles can do that. If you've seen an athlete who wasn't lifting and then a year later starts lifting, their muscles grow. Could have emphasis on bicep, quads, things like that. But what you can't see is the tendons and ligaments, right? You can't see someone's ACL grow and develop. But what we know is that through ability is that must mean it's changing. So when an athlete can lift more weight with squats and split squats, when they can get to full ranges of motion in squats and split squats, that means that their knees, tendons, and ligaments are more adaptable, more pliable. And that's what we want, because if you look at freak athletes like Michael Jordan, Barry Sanders are two that come to my mind, their tendons and ligaments had to be extremely strong and capable in order for them to exert themselves physically the way that they did. So we use stretching and strengthening to create more ability to absorb forces of running and jumping. So when we get into full ranges of motion, we're doing things and loading these tendons and ligaments and joints so that when they go to land in their sport, when they go to run as hard as they can, when they go to jump as hard as they can, when they're able to do these things without pain and injury, well, they're obviously going to be more athletic. And what loading these tendons and ligaments does is it makes the body more tolerant to the plyometrics. And the plyometrics are the running and jumping. So what we do is we stretch that joint, we stretch the knee, we stretch the ankle, and then we also strengthen it at the same time. Because what happens typically with an injury is the joint gets overstretched. So when I tore my ACL got overstretched. Like it could not handle the amount of force I had put into it. And so it literally, like a rubber band, snapped, okay? And so those things can still happen when you play sports, but training ATG is going to make it much less likely because your joints, your tendons and ligaments have been put into difficult positions where you can handle weight, okay? So that's why weight and strength training really correlates well to running and jumping. So we train the joints like they're muscles. So a lot of people, when I got into strength training, it was all about the glutes, the quads, the biceps. It's all about the muscles, right? So we've kind of taught, and we know that muscles change and adapt. So what ATG has done is we've thought about that same muscle building, now we apply that to joints, okay? So we're building the ankle, we're building the knee, we're building the shoulders, because those are the areas, again, where the injuries happen. So that's what we were missing before, is we weren't focusing on the joint, we were focusing on the muscle, but how does that affect the joint? Okay, so we want to do exercises with ATG that are going to strengthen those joints, because when we strengthen those joints, we become more injury preventative, we can rehab the joints, and then also on top of that, you're going to become more athletic when your knees and ankles and hips and shoulders are stronger and more pliable. That's the flexibility part. And the reason why I think this is important is because millions of athletes get hurt every single year in high school sports. So we must not follow the crowd, and we must figure out a better solution, okay? The system isn't working. It's not preventing kids from getting hurt. Now, kids will get hurt playing sports. I'm not saying that. Like, that's just a part of the game. We need to be able to rehab them after they're hurt. But then we could also do more to prevent the injuries, okay? Because a lot of injuries are just the athlete not getting hit, but a non-contact injury. So a basketball player moving side to side, a football player making a cut, and then they tear their ACL, well, that's a non-contact injury. And those are very preventable. Like, those are the injuries that can absolutely be prevented, but you have to make sure the tendons, joints, and ligaments are strong. And so that's what we're focusing on here with ATG. That's how you can train all three things at once, and I think that's like the trifecta of a training program, is injury prevention, rehabilitation, and athleticism. Because rehabilitation even happens between your games. So like a basketball player plays on Friday night and then they have a game on Tuesday. Well, they need to make sure that they're feeling good, like an active recovery between Friday and Tuesday. So that's another thing that ATG can really help with. I've seen it with athletes. I've helped athletes go from rehabilitation, so they are typically in a brace because of their ankles, in a brace because of their knees, long-term shoulder issues because they play baseball, softball, things like that. And what we do is we make that area of their body extremely strong using strength training movements. And I want to get more athletes to be able to do that. That's the whole point of ATG, is to help athletes just be able to fully express their athleticism. That's one of the worst things, is once you get hurt, it's hard to get back to where you were. So we want to make kids better than where they ever were, and then go beyond that, kind of like a zero to infinity mindset. And that's with our athleticism, with our strength training exercises, with our mobility exercises, with our plyometric, finding the base where the kids are at, and then continuing to grow from there. So I hope this video helps to understand how ATG helps with injury prevention, rehabilitation, athleticism, all at the same time. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Thank you.